So if we look at this player's FB ref report, we can see that his creative output is nowhere near good enough for a side like Manchester United, and this goes for a number of different positions in United's starting 11. And so in this series, what I'm going to be doing is breaking down which players I think could come into Manchester United to give them that perfect gegenpressing side to potentially win the Premier League title next season. Now this video was edited by AJ Analysis, who's got a number of different Manchester United videos on his channel that you might want to check out after this video, so I'll leave his channel linked in the description below. But what I'm going to be doing in this video is breaking down which of the current United players in their squad would get into this perfect starting 11. And then in future episodes I will be breaking down which individual players I would look to bring in to create that perfect gegenpressing side. So if you do want to see those future episodes, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you get notified when those videos come out. But before I get into that, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfever.com. I myself have bought a number of different jerseys from Jersey Fever, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 2003-2004 shirt with Ronaldo on the back. So if you want one of these shirts, click the link in the description below and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL with a space at checkout to get 5% off. So let's get into it and start off with the goalkeeper, and I think everyone would agree that David De Gea is good enough for Manchester United, as I'd say he's probably been United's standout player along with Cristiano Ronaldo this season, and so he keeps his space in this side. And another player that keeps their space in the back line is going to be Raphael Varane, who, whilst I don't think he's at the same level as Ruben Diaz or Virgil van Dijk, he's in that bracket below. He's still a top level centre back and he's more than good enough for Manchester United, as is Luke Shaw at left back, who not only is solid defensively but he provides the ball carrying ability to progress the ball forward at pace. He does need to improve his offensive output when he gets into the final third, such as his crosses into the box, but I still think you'd have to consider Luke Shaw to be a top level left back, and I think with Alex Telles as a backup, United do have that option of putting in a player who's a better deeper crosser than Luke Shaw. Telles is definitely a more creative player when he receives the ball in the flank, so United can switch them in and out if they do need to vary their offensive output from the left side. However, now we come on to the issues in United's backline, and without doubt it's the centre back alongside Varane. So Maguire, I think everyone concedes now, is not good enough. Since he joined United, really, it seems like he's just round the corner from another mistake. This season he's been absolutely atrocious in some games, and ideally when you are playing a high pressing style, which I think United will continue to do after Rangnick, you do want quick centre backs in your back line who can turn quickly and has that recovery pace to make up ground on players who make runs in behind the back line, and Maguire simply doesn't have this. I do think his passing ability in possession is very valuable, but there's not really much point being a very good passer if you're constantly making mistakes and you turn like a bus in mud. Now, whilst I do think Eric Bailly and Lindelof are better options than Maguire at centre-back, I don't think they're good enough to be United's starting centre-backs, and so I would keep those two as backups. And the reason for this is that even though I do think both players can be very good individual defenders on their day, they both do have mistakes in them, with a recent example being Eric Bailly's mistake against Burnley, which led to Aaron Lennon's goal. And so ideally I think United have to be bringing in a top-level centre-back, as do they have to bring in a top level right back, as Aaron Wan-Bissaka is simply not good enough. And if you watch the matches that he's played since Rangnick has come in, that seems to be even more evident. In Rangnick's narrow system, which even though he may not be Manchester United manager next season, I do think United will continue with a narrow shape, and even if managers like Erik ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever is brought in, they're going to require a lot of offensive output from their fullbacks, and Wan-Bissaka simply cannot provide this. When he receives the ball in the middle or defensive third, he takes far too long to get the ball under control. He's clumsy in possession, and if you watch Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the ball, it reminds me of when you're playing FIFA and you have a lag and the players are moving all clunky and not fluid at all. Wan-Bissaka's technique for a player at Manchester United is absolutely shocking, and when he gets into the final third, he's barely able to put a ball into the box, and when he does, it's often lofted too high with no pace on at all, and so he provides absolutely no service for the strikers in the middle. And if you look at Wan-Bissaka's FB ref report over the last 365 days, when compared against every other fullback in Europe's top 5 leagues, you can see how poor he is going forward. He ranks in just the 29th percentile for expected assists and the 39th for progressive passes, which are two of the most crucial metrics for offensive fullbacks, as this shows your output in the final third as well as your ability to move the ball forward in the middle and defensive thirds as well. I think Diego Dalot could be a very good player in the next few seasons, but at the moment he is certainly the understudy, and United do need a top level right back, and if you watch future episodes of this series you'll see who I suggest. Now I think if you ask most Manchester United fans the area of the pitch that United need to improve most, they'll without doubt say central midfield, and I totally agree. Nemanja Matic is a decent player for now, but realistically he's too old, he's declining, he hasn't got the athleticism anymore, I would get rid of him at the end of the season, and I'd have Fred and McTominay as backup central midfielders, so I definitely think they can play a role in this side, particularly with Rangnick and whichever manager comes in after, having that sort of pressing style of play which Fred and McTominay both suit. But I'd also like to see James Garner come into the squad at the end of the season and have those three as backup central midfielders to the two main central midfielders that I would look to bring in, as in this side I'm looking for top level ready-made players, and therefore United need a ball winner who can sit behind the play and break up opposition counter-attacks, but they also need a player who can play forward passes quickly, distribute the ball from deeper positions, and play the role of a deeper line playmaker. See, despite the criticism that both Fred and McTominay both get, I do think that since Rangnick's come in, both players have dramatically improved their performances. And this is because despite both still playing the same position in central midfield, there's been a change in their role and a change in what they're expected to do. Under Solskjaer, both players sat deep in possession, and therefore, in this type of system where the midfield double pivots sit deep behind the ball and have three attacking midfielders moving in between the lines, you would expect both players in that deep double pivot to have some sort of forward passing creative ability, and this simply isn't Fred or McTominay's game. If you think of players like Jordan Henderson, Rodri, Jorginho, players of that ilk, as soon as they get the ball they seem to be looking for those forward passes, either working the ball into players between the lines or looking for passes over the top of the back line or out to the flanks to progress the ball forward. However, Fred and McTominay don't have this top level passing ability, and that's why they struggled so much, and it was so evident under Solskjaer. Since Rangnick's come in, McTominay's been given more freedom to push further forward, and this is the role that he thrives in, able to make runs ahead of the ball, receive the ball in the final third, and we've seen what he can do from long range shooting positions. And both players, Fred and McTominay, seem to be decent when pressing high up the field. They seem to be ready to move onto opposition players, and they definitely suit this pressing central midfield role a lot more than a holding midfield role, as neither of the two players are very good in one-on-one situations when the opposition are driving the attack forward. If you look at the Wolves game, McTominay got beat in a couple of 1v1s. One that comes to mind is João Moutinho on the left flank, breezed past McTominay, progressing the ball into United's defensive third, and Fred over the past season has been constantly caught out when he's isolated in central midfield, and so United do need this holding central midfielder who has the ability to defend in one-on-one situations in the middle third, as this will break up opposition counter-attacks and help United sustain their own. Before I go on, just a reminder that I do have a Patreon where for £5 a month each week you'll get a weekly newsletter, as well as 2 exclusive Patreon videos, one of which will be a Manchester United based video, the other will be on a topic voted on by patrons. So if you do want some exclusive content and to help support the channel, click the link in the description to sign up to my Patreon, but just watching my videos all the way through is very much appreciated as well. And now we come on to the attack, and I think even if Rangnick isn't manager next season, United will have a manager who plays with 3 attacking midfielders in behind the centre forward, or with 2 central strikers, and so United do need to be looking for players who can operate between the lines, but United aren't exactly in short supply of attacking talents. It does look like Paul Pogba will leave at the end of the season, so I'm going to assume that he does leave. I think Bruno Fernandes and Jadon Sancho would be the 2 players to start in those 2 positions behind the centre forwards. I think playing Jadon Sancho in this position does give United versatility. He can pull out wide as he's been doing in recent games and provide more width in the attack, or he can look to drift between the lines into central positions, and this will offer United a vertical forward passing option when they win the ball back deep in central midfield. As soon as the ball is won, United's deeper line players can look to play this direct pass into Jadon Sancho, and he can drive forward, carrying the attack forward, which was something he was very good at Borussia Dortmund, and this ball carrying ability is exactly what United need to transition the attack quickly, which is a fundamental part of Rangnick and the Gegenpressing style. Alongside Sancho, I think Bruno Fernandes will take up more of a central position rather than drifting out wide, and he is United's most creative player currently other than Pogba, who, as I've said, I will assume that he is going to leave, so United definitely need Bruno Fernandes in this side, and you saw against Wolves when he came onto the pitch, his ability to play those long passes in behind the back line is going to be crucial for finding those runners and transitioning the attack quickly, so I think Bruno Fernandes and Jadon Sancho in behind the front 2 are very good options for Manchester United, but I think if you look at United's other options in attacking midfield, none of them really fit the system perfectly. I think Donny van der Beek's a very good player, but I don't think he's going to get his opportunity at Manchester United, and he doesn't really suit this quick transition in attack, and so I think it's time United cut their losses and cash in on him, as why just sit him on the bench just for the sake of it? You might as well cash in on him and use them funds to bring in a player who's better suited to the system. The same goes for Anthony Martial, who I really don't think fits into the system. If he was going to fit in anywhere, it would be in the centre forward position, but he's just nowhere near as good as the likes of Cavani, Greenwood, or even Rashford on his day, and because Martial along with Rashford are experiencing this massive decline, I think Martial's going to have to leave, so I would definitely cash in on him. Now United do have a couple of other young attacking midfielders who could come in, but I am going to suggest that United sign an alternative option in the attacking midfield position, and you'll see why when I come onto that episode later on in this series, why I would still look to bring in someone despite Jadon Sancho and Bruno Fernandes being the main starters. And finally up front, of course Ronaldo would be the starter and the main centre forward. I think his role may adapt under Rangnick. I think he may suit the role of being a deeper line player, dropping off from the forward line and linking the attack, but he can also provide the runs in behind the back line because his runs are absolutely amazing. If you watch the last few games, you'll see that as soon as United receive the ball in central midfield, he's making that peeling run around the centre backs, and if United against Wolves had been able to play those through balls to find Ronaldo's runs, he would have got a lot more shooting opportunities and arguably would have scored them, so that can be the difference. So I think Ronaldo has to be the centre forward, and alongside him, ideally I would like to see Mason Greenwood come into the side, as I do think he's got the potential in the next few seasons to move into that top level player bracket. But I do think Cavani and Marcus Rashford also provide alternative options. I would use Marcus Rashford as a wide forward. I have got a video coming out specifically on how to get the best out of Marcus Rashford, so subscribe for that video. But also you've got Cavani there, who's an excellent centre forward for his age, and I think keeping him on for another season would be a very good option for United. So I've gone through the whole starting 11, and I am going to be looking at a centre back, a right back, two central midfielders and an attacking midfielder that United could bring in the summer to make their perfect Gegenpressing side. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check out my Patreon for exclusive videos, as well as AJ Analysis's channel as well, which will be linked below in the description, along with some other videos that I think you may enjoy as well.